What's up, ladies? Live in the world of Facebook, coming to you from Zoom. Oh my goodness, we are having a wonderful time talking about what happens? What happens in the mind and in life when we have that little self-sabotager, right? We're cruising along, and then all of a sudden we're like, what? Where'd you come from? Right? Whether it's a thought, a feeling, an emotion, an old habit, an old behavior, right? And we're like a detour. Mm. And for those of us who have done that like yo-yo dieting thing, it's like maybe the first time we weren't so hard on ourselves because we didn't really know what we were doing. And then the second time, it's like, wait a minute, I know this now. I should be doing something different. This didn't really work out so well last time. Right. And then the third time, it's like, okay, now I'm upset. And it just becomes this like rigmarole of emotion and up and down and starting and stopping and stopping and starting and almost getting there. And then, being so invigorated by the goal and then getting to the goal. And now it's like, what? Like I've just been starving myself this whole time waiting to eat. Right? That's like quitting drinking just so that you can, get smashed at a party. It's like, well, that wasn't totally the point. Hopefully, maybe that was the point. I don't know. So it's really this, we've been diving into it this week and in the webinar. If you guys missed the webinar, leave me a note below and we can talk about it in the PMs. It was recorded. So I'm happy to share that with you, where we talked a little bit more about that like internal stuff, right? That struggle, that fight on the inside. There's that part of us that just wants to control and have everything make sense. It needs to be on time. It needs to be organized. It needs to make sense. It needs to be logical. It needs to just be like this for us to feel okay, safe, which is nice and wonderful for some times of life. And then there's that like carefree, F the world and the rules, who really cares anyway? Like, let's just enjoy the moment. Let's enjoy life. Let's enjoy whatever this thing is. Right? And just likes to indulge in the pleasures that life offers. And it can go back and forth. So, this just keeps coming up. It keeps coming up as an idea, kind of like an underlying, right, underneath the surface, because diets are really typically in the controlling part, right? That's when we're like, oh, I gotta buckle down, gotta get on that wagon, right? Gotta make this happen. I gotta lose some pounds. I gotta get my mind clear. I gotta, it's like very goal oriented, like timeline specific, focus, make it happen. And then there's life in between. Life in between that, and the moments where we just want to, who cares? I need to relax. I need to feel good. So what are your thoughts as I'm talking about all this, Miss Natalia?
I just relate so much. I don't know specifically like my thoughts, but yeah, I mean, especially when you're talking about like when you keep trying and then you don't even like believe in yourself anymore, that like you're gonna meet those goals. Like I grew up with a mom who was constantly dieting, so I never tried it. So that's like literally one of the main things about our story that's like different. Otherwise it's just we're so similar growing up, but like I just never tried any of that kind of stuff. And it wasn't until I was in my 20s that someone recommended like cutting out sugar and flour and like not snacking. And I was like, well, I'll try cutting out sugar and flour, but I'm gonna be snacking. And then it was just me, being super like, I got the controller. I was like, well, I'll try your way, but I'm going to take this part. I'm gonna take the reins on this part. And then the next morning.
Can I actually ask you a question about that? Because we knew each other in our 20s. And I remember, and like, correct me if I'm wrong, whatever, memories are weird like that. But I remember a real, attachment to the idea, and I say this gently. I say this very gently because I
Oh,
totally understand.
sugar and flour.
What?
No, I'm correcting myself. It wasn't sugar and flour. It was literally, what was it? It was sugar.
Sugar.
Just sugar.
Sugar.
Just
Sugar.
sugar.
Real sugar. Yeah.
Yeah, just sugar and snacking. So it's just sugar.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I didn't hear the snacking part. So the next
Well,
morning,
okay, so this is what I'm
Yeah.
curious about
Yeah.
because I remember I remember you talking about being hypoglycemic and getting hangry.
Yeah.
And like there was like, like I need to eat at certain times and really having like a blood sugar kind of like out of control. And so maybe I'm piecing this together myself and it wasn't that, but did you think that you had to snack to control that?
at some point, yeah, for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure. Because I was like a raging lunatic when I was too hungry. Um, and yeah, when I did take the suggestion, it was to, like I said, I did not hear the no snacking part. I just heard the no sugar part. And I had hit a bottom, like a physical manifestation of me literally at the gas station, pivoting in the parking lot because I wanted to go in and get a Heath bar. And I'm like,
No.
I don't get Heath bar. I'm gonna get a Heath bar. No, I'm doing this in the parking lot, just getting gas, looking like a nut job. And I mean, so when I told this person about it, they were like, man, it's the sugar. And like, what do you think about cutting that out and trying, with no snacking? I didn't hear the no snacking part. The next morning when I woke up, I had my breakfast and I grabbed an apple in between and she was like, what you doing? I'm like, what do you mean? What am I doing? I'm having an apple. And she was like, thought you weren't snacking. And I was like, I didn't say I wasn't snacking. And then I was like, whoa, crazy. You gonna get an apple?
Don't you tell me what to do and not do. Totally.
And so I was like, okay. I'll surrender this amount of control. And yeah, so then, I mean, I ate whatever, however, as long as it didn't have like just straight up like sugary sweet type of stuff. Yeah. And I was 20, so it worked. I tried that in my 30s and it was like, ain't no weight going nowhere. What is this? This is not like it was.
Yep.
So, but yeah, so definitely trying to control it, definitely thinking I had my own way, my own say, and then I got into like sugar-free candy and like I definitely started snack, like, oh my gosh, it was just, goes into the craziness. But yeah, I definitely was that. I was like between my meals, I was a raging lunatic and I was like, okay, whatever I do in the future, I cannot be a raging lunatic between my meals. I have to have something that works so that I'm not like this between my meals. Yeah.
So what was that? What did you find that was helpful? Like what changed for you?
Well, I found a few years ago, I found a program where they weigh and measure their food and have like a similar food plan to yours. And so that really worked for me, like getting that, and because you have this program for a reason, like that proper amount of nutrition in its place. And then I realized that I was also like always thinking about food, whether I was eating whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, or I was trying to control it and be like, well, I'm not eating sugar and flour right now, but if I'm at a birthday party, like I'm totally having the cake. Like that's balance, right? Like doesn't work for me. It doesn't work for me. I eat the cake and then I come home and raid the cabinet, So anyway, that weighing and measuring worked for me. Side note of why it didn't last was that honestly, the compassion piece that is here is so huge. It's like life-changing. It literally makes it work. And so, so I would say now the food plan, the way that it is, it's just whole foods. Like you say, basically, if it grows out of the ground, go for it. Like I can make every meal like that. I can feed my family for dinner like that, like it's doable, it fits. And so, and the way my body feels is like completely nourished until my next meal. I may feel some hunger, which I am not a fan of generally. Like one of our girls was talking about the other day. Well, I'm still hungry. You know, I'm hungry sometimes before, and it's uncomfortable. And yes, I mean, I totally get that. It is not my favorite. My brain is different than some people. I know this because my husband is like different brain than me. He's fine. If he's hungry, he's fine. He's not losing his mind. He doesn't think he's going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, I have this thing that freaks out and goes, "You're going to die." Like, or something, you better shove something in your face. And so I'm not, it's not crazy like that anymore. I literally know what I'm eating and that it's coming. Like I have it planned, I have it written down, and I know it's coming. So then I get to like chill out and just like enjoy my life. I used to just be like, well, should I grab those nuts or you know, maybe, or am I going to do the birthday cake at the party? And like, and just, it was constantly controlling me, constantly in my mind. And now I'm like, my blood sugar is like, cool. My hormones, unless I'm on my period, are cool. I mean, even then it's like so much more chill. Like it's so different without consuming flour and sugar. It makes your hormones just like so much more balanced. But yeah, so it's like, I'm satisfied. My body is taken care of. It's like having nutritious food in the right amounts at the right time. And like, I don't get hangry. I don't ever get hangry anymore.
I know.
You know that hangry ruled my life.
Girl, I was right there with you. When it was me and you hungry, it was like everyone else just had to like step to the side. Step to the side. I remember one night in particular.
Uh-oh.
I remember you being hangry outside, like when we were on our way to the restaurant. And I was like right there with you, but like you kind of took the cake in the intensity of the emotion. Who, me? And then that was the night that I had like the 3 French fries on the plate still sitting there, and the lady came over to like take everyone's dirty plates, and I had the fork in my hand still, and I like slammed the plate down on the table. And it was all boom, because it was like plate on table, fork plate table. And I was like, I'm not done with those French fries. Oh my God, I wish I could say that was the only wild, weird thing I've ever done with food, but it's not. It's not. It was like, I had to have my thing. Oh man, what a journey. What a total journey. We've been talking a lot again about like the controller and the indulger, and what I have found for myself and what I see more and more in you as well is that it doesn't have to be all or nothing, right? It's not like I'm only in control mode or I'm only in indulge mode. Like that's that diet mentality, right? Where we're either being a good girl or a bad girl. We're either on or off, right? And when I'm on, it's like I'm so strict. There's really not a lot of fun, right, in life. And then when I'm off, it's like, I'm like, well, okay, let's get all the things because tomorrow, right? Tomorrow we're never doing this again. And it's this real kind of extremeness. And what I found and what I see you finding as well is it's like, whoa, dude, maybe I can have just enough control, right, to move towards my goal, right? Because that's why we have the controllers to help us and support us and focus and move towards a goal. And then also, like you said, it's like I know when I'm going to eat. I have the structure of breakfast and lunch and dinner that has so vibrant and nutrients that I'm fine for at least a few hours after I eat. And when I eat, it's gosh darn enjoyable. Right. And then there's like a little bit more sweetness in life as well. When like that heavy load of thinking about when I'm going to get the next thing, what am I going to have, at the gas station going, okay, I'm going to have it. I'm going to have it. I'm not going to have it. I'm not going to have it. Wait, I mean, I really want it. I'm never going to do it again. This like, that's a lot of mental space. I know. Breathe on that one. Seriously. And that wasn't the only time, it was like most of my life was consumed with that type of thinking.
I had no idea how much of my life was consumed by that until I put the food in its freaking place.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, when you say the controller, it's like parenting the child that says, we're going to die because we're not eating like right now. There is a pain. I mean, most of the time that was digestion, Rose. And I only know that because I mean, I have 3 little boys, and one of them is just like me. God bless
Bless
him.
his soul.
So he is like, I just know that I'm hungry right now. And I'm like, literally, like, I have to use the clock, and be like if he was in school, these would be the proper times to have, like, when we have breakfast, this is snack, lunch, snack, dinner. I have to be like, that clock doesn't say 3 yet. Like, it is what it is. And then I have another one who's like my husband, who's like, I'm just not hungry, or like, I just don't like that food, or like, that's just too sweet and I'm just not into it. And I'm going to leave it on my plate.
You're like, who are you?
Yeah. Yeah. So what happened? So I diverted hello figures. But what happened was I didn't realize how much was always going on in here all the time, constantly chatting. And a lot of it was around food all the times of the day, until I put food in its proper place. Once I said, this is when I'm having, these are the 4 to 6 hours between. This is really smart. Tried and true by so many freaking people. Food in its place. I know how much I'm having. I know that it's plenty and that I enjoy it because I wrote it down. I planned that, I picked that. Then it got really quieter in here. Like, it physically felt like a fog was like, just holding me down, bogging me down. And it was like lifted and everything was so clear. I could see the insanity of what the chatter was that had been going on for my whole life. I could see and feel, and like, it just changed everything. I could like see myself, my insanity, my sanity, my life, my kids, my whatever, not to mention clearing all that out of my like actual physical body. So I enjoy certain foods now that I would be like, I could take that or leave it before. And now I'm like, roasted cabbage, give me roast my asparagus. I will eat it all. It's so good. Like, so yeah, it's cool, man. The body heals and like changes, and your mind changes, and when it's put in its place, it's really cool.
Really healing. I remember Dr. Lustig said one time that they did some studies around palate and palate change, and issues with texture and taste and desire for real food, right? Like, you can add sugar to anything and most human beings will eat it. That's just the deal, right? But if we're talking about real food, it's complex, right? In everything that goes along with it. Of course, how it was cooked and when it was grown, and the soil and all of that stuff goes into play with our experience of the food. And then of course, our own bodies, like, how hungry actually are we? What time of year is it? Like, it's just a very complex interplay that we have with what we actually put inside of our body and our experience of it. And one of the things that he said was that it takes 12 times of trying a new food, like a new vegetable or a new, fruit or whatever, like real food, to really develop like a taste for it. 12.
Oh,
That is a lot.
that is a lot.
I don't know if I would eat something 12 times that I wasn't really into.
Serve because I'm thinking as a parent, like, would I serve something to my kids like 12 times?
12 times with them not really liking it or wanting
Yeah.
it? Yeah. Like, I'm like, that's crazy. He's like, yeah, but like, you add sugar to it and now it's one time. Right? Now it's one time. And I'm like, well, no wonder a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Like, it totally reminds you of Mary.
Yeah, I'll take that.
I'm like, man, it seemed so right. It seemed so right back in the day. It's like, oh, it's sweet. It's tantalizing. It's wonderful. It makes everything good. Like, we feel good. And then we didn't actually realize that the rest of the body is like, no, thank you. No, thank you.
Interesting.
So the other thing that I remember him saying is that it takes about 5 days
Yeah.
for the body to really reset, right? From all of the sugar and the flour and the foggy stuff that you're talking about. And of course, everyone's body's a little bit different. But I like that. 5 days, that doesn't seem that dramatic, right? Because like sometimes I think, oh my God, it's going to take months, it's going to be years before I can really feel okay again, or whatever it is. But really, like that kind of toxicity, the sugar, the flour, the chaos that happens, the gut begins to heal, the mind clears up. Like we have these incredible organs that are really good at detoxing. Like that's literally their job.
Yeah, it's kind of
Right?
incredible.
It's incredible. Like I don't need to go detoxing. Right? I don't need to go
Yeah.
doing that. Like just stop putting this stuff in and the body knows what to do. Like we have a liver and kidneys and skin and gallbladder and all of that stuff that the whole thing's come out of. Our
Yes,
body
we do.
knows.
We have. It's funny that you say
Oh
that.
man, totally.
Like I know I've learned this, right? And I've experienced it, but I like forgot what it was like the very first time when I was like super insanely sugar. Like I could never even considered a day in my life of quitting or even like cutting out sugar or flour. And I well, no, it's not true. So when I was 20, I don't even consider that, but it's whatever. That was just like so weird and a fluke. When I was a grown up and I was just like had some kids and my body was like is what it felt like. Just like we're not going to lose any weight. We're going to hold on to all of the weight and your body looks different now and like everything is weird. So at that time, I when I started measuring my food, cutting out sugar and flour, I had like headaches. Okay. I had like withdrawal headaches and like that fog. And I also behaved for a couple of days like a freaking drug addict coming off of her drugs. I was like a gnashing, raging person. And like you said, does that sound awesome? Yay, come on board. Like, do this. It's like, no, if we know that we are, I mean, basically enslaved to this. Like, I mean, they're like, I always say I'm going to do something and try and I fail every time. Then obviously I'm afraid of that process. That process really did only take a week. You know, it really was only 5 days and it was sprinkled in with some of these little not so pleasant things, but it was really gone after a week. That physical part. The mental part is a little trickier, which is why, again, I love your program because we have each other. Thank goodness. Because it's just hard to see that is not a reason to go out and do anything. It's literally just a mental part that we can work through and do it together. And then, you know, you move through that and then you get evidence. For me, I get evidence of myself doing what I truly want, which is, you know, to eat nutritious and put food in its place. And then I'm like, well, then I remember the next time that I have that thought, I'm like, well, I've been doing this. Like, I've totally got this. And my people believe in me. And yeah, it just shifts and changes everything.
It does. It shifts and changes everything little bit by little bit. And it's nice to have some words to describe it as well. And I think that's what's really helpful for me too, to have this kind of community and this kind of group. Like we have our experience, but we continue to change and unfold, and new stuff kind of comes to light. And sometimes, like just left to my own self, trying to figure out, those thoughts just kind of swim around with the same old thoughts that I've always had. And I'm not even really sure how to externalize it. I'm not even really sure like what the words are, what the feelings are. And then when I go into the group, there's somebody else that's talking about a similar type of experience, right? Something that has to do with, well, all of it. But typically, if we're going to put words like that controlling piece that just wants things to be like this so that we can be okay, and that indulger piece that's like, who gives a shit? You know, it's a birthday or whatever that is. And being able to identify it and put words to it, and then have our own experience relating to those sorts of ideas, it's really just such a fun process, which I don't know if like healing mental emotional stuff, I've ever thought of it as fun before, but that's really what's lifted for me as well, is like the judgment around it, which is the kind of the harmonizing of the two seemingly separate parts, the controller and the indulger. It's like I had so much judgment about both parts before, and now it's like, oh, okay, no, they're both good, they both have their job, they're both beneficial in a way, I just don't want them to be fighting all the time. So how can we come in with, just like you said, a little bit of compassion instead of that, like, good, bad, right, wrong. It's like, oh man, having a little compassion for myself, doing the darn best that I could throughout all the madness, all the diets, all the stuff, all the pain. So yeah, I found that I can't do this alone. So I really appreciate you cruising along this journey with me as well.
Yeah.
Totally
Absolutely.
cool. It's really fun to see your little boys like walking around behind you. Like, I just imagine being 3. Do 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 do. Just like,
Yeah. Sometimes
how,
I'll
I mean,
just
he's
sit
not
back
3.
and
Is he 3?
he's almost 3, dude.
Dude,
March.
that's so awesome. All right. Well, I'm going to let
So
you go. I appreciate your time as always. Thank you, ladies, for enjoying our little Natalia and Rose show today. And we'll be back next week. Love ya.
I see you next week.